What's up everyone, I'm Conrad. Today we're looking at a brand new suspension offering for the Tacoma and other Toyota trucks. We've got the Dirt King 2.0 IFP series, front coilovers, and rear shocks. So we're going to be installing this kit on Kenny's 2022 3rd Gen Tacoma. As you can see, he's got a pretty decent overland build. We've got hybrid front bumper, rock sliders, roof racks, storage cases, GFC topper, and a tent. We're going to adjust the coilover preload, and we're going to start on the front. So before we jump over to Kenny's truck, I just wanted to show you guys for the last about 6, 7, 8, 9 months, I don't know, you lose track of time, I have been running the Dirt King 2.5 with the adjustable reservoir with dual compression adjustment for high and low speed. So we do have a good amount of experience with this kit already. This one has been nothing but good. If you're looking for that more race inspired suspension line, the highest end, this is what you're going to be looking for. So we'll do a more detailed comparison on these two later. Right now, let's get back to Kenny's truck. So in a second, we're going to adjust the preload on these to better account for Kenny's ride height, but I wanted to talk about the system as a whole, not even just the 2.0s, but also the 2.5s. Each shock system, each suspension is valved and tuned specifically for each vehicle application. So when you're buying these shocks, just know that the time and effort has been put in to make sure that they are perfectly designed for your vehicle. So on the note of tuning and valving, these shocks are progressively valved. What that means is it's going to provide a good mix of performance for the vast majority of Tacoma owners. Most of the time, our rigs are not dedicated trail rigs. Most of us are going to be daily driving during the week and then trying to find the occasional weekend where we can fit in a wheeling trip. So if you fit into that category, which the majority of us do, these are going to be designed specifically for that individual. These shocks feature progressive valving. What that means is that they're better at absorbing small bumps and absorbing big hits. This type of valving is going to be super relevant to the vast majority of people that drive Tacomas, and yeah, there is a subjective element to what you like more, but in general, if you have a daily driver that you like to take out on the weekends, progressive valving is going to be your friend. So this new system, outside of just being tuned specifically for each vehicle, is tuned for the vast majority of Tacoma owners. So let's touch on something that a lot of people have been asking questions about: manufacturing. These shocks are manufactured in North America, in Canada specifically, by, yes, Elka, and there's a reason for that. Instead of investing a crazy amount of time, effort, money, labor, everything into creating a brand new production process, Dirt King went and leveraged one of the best shock manufacturers that's out there right now in order to support this project of theirs. And really, at the end of the day, what differentiates any high quality shock or coilover from the next one is the tuning and the valving. So that's where Dirt King applied all of their expertise, all of their testing to make sure that the valving right out of the box was one of the best experiences that you could get from a suspension system on the market today. Let's run a quick feature summary here. So the system does provide extra wheel travel. The valving in the front right, like we already mentioned, are vehicle specific. In the Tacoma, we see 14-inch springs with 700-pound spring rates. The setup can be totally rebuilt and serviced, and the parts are easily available. The aluminum components are made from aircraft grade T6061, so we get efficient cooling and corrosion resistance. Take a look at that sick color scheme. We've got black, gray, and gold anodizing with induction hardened shafts. We've also got progressive valving, internal top-out springs. These provide up to 3 inches of lift with the front coilovers with an adjustable preload for fine-tuning on a threaded coilover body. This is a direct bolt-on application, and the oil used is a custom low-friction synthetic oil blend made specifically for high temperatures. The front springs are high tensile and cold wound, and the rear shocks come with optional boots. Alright, so we got the wheel off. First things first, we're going to get these shock out. In the rear of the truck, it's pretty simple. We're starting here because we're not ready with our preloaded coilovers. So we're going to loosen this top shock nut and the bottom one, pop it out, and toss the new Dirt King shock in there. All right, so I've got that rear shock out. If you've never done this before, again, it's pretty straightforward. We've got the lower shock mount down here on the axle on this side and the top shock mount up here. So you loosen this bolt, you loosen that bolt, nut, whatever it might be, comes right out. Now we're gonna toss the new Dirt King shock in there. All right, so here we go, 2.0 IFP. We're gonna put the bottom shock bolt in first.
Hail.
Nice, a little bit of hail in the meantime. Perfect timing, as usual. Pop that nut on there, tighten it down, and then we're gonna compress the shock and put it into the top mount. All right, in order to get this guy in the top mount, we gotta push this down and compress it. It's a lot easier on a 2.0 shock than a 2.5. We're just gonna aim it in there, boom. Now we're gonna take our new bushing and washer, pop it on there, take that new nut, boom, tighten it down, and that's how easy it is to swap a rear shock. The annoying point is gonna be swapping your leaf pack if you have to. That's when all this stuff has to come apart, but for the back, the rear shock, pretty self-explanatory. We're here at Yoda Works in St. Charles in Illinois. We tried to adjust the preload ourselves with one of those rentable spring compressors. Not safe. Travis has a wall mounted one. We're gonna adjust the preload and then get back to the install.
Did you loosen the bottom collar up?
No, it's a good seat. It's fine. Good still?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's loose already.
Okay.
So we're just quickly adjusting the preload on these guys. They're coming with about 3/8 out of the box. We're shooting for 13/16, somewhere around there. That's the maximum preload. And that'll give us enough preload given all the weight that Kenny's got on his truck.
All right, so we just got back from Travis's. We've got just the right amount of preload on there. Factory comes with about 3/8 of an inch. We boosted it all the way up to the max at 13/16 or so, maybe a tiny bit more. Just wanted to show you guys this. You can see all that extra preload here on the collar, on the threaded part of the shock body. So it's time to take the wheel off, pull off the old suspension, install these and some new uppers. All right, so we got the wheel off. We're in the driver's side front wheel well now. We're gonna pull the shock, the upper control arm, replace both of those. In terms of how the shock goes, there's one bolt down here and then 3 more up top, and the whole coilover pops out. You might be able to tell Kenny doesn't have a sway bar, so we don't have to deal with that, but shock, UCA, then we're gonna swap them all out. So we've got the coilover assembly here, 3 bolts undone, 1 bolt on the bottom. Next up, we're gonna separate the upper control arm from the knuckle spindle. Right here with this bolt, we already pulled the cotter pin. If you're gonna do this, make sure you support this, because if the shock is not connected and you disconnect this, the whole assembly drops down. You'll either bend a brake line or rip your ABS line, or both. So we've almost got this castle nut off. Kenny's supporting everything so it just doesn't fall. We've also got the shock out, so we don't want all this to just come tumbling down like that. Okay, you're holding that?
Yep.
Now I'm gonna be able to pull the coilover out because we got room. Push this up, push that up, okay. Now tilt this towards me. Okay, boom! Coilover removed. Just like that. Okay, so we are now on the upper control arm. Make sure you secure your spindle here to the coil tower somewhere. Obviously, these are the brake lines. These are the ABS lines. We already said that. Do not break them. I've done that before. Very expensive. To take the upper control arm off, we've got a 19mm and a 19mm. Usually you can just loosen the back and you don't really have to hold down the front. Depends on how much load is back there and whether or not you might need to put something back there to hold that nut in the front. So to loosen this,
boom, boom, pull the bolt out, you can pull your control arm out. So we've got the control arm out. If you're doing this for the first time and you're doing it yourself, you have to be aware this bolt by design doesn't really fit through this gap here. You have to do two things, at least on this side, the driver's side. You can bend the sheet metal back a little bit, and you have to disconnect a bracket that sits right next to the battery tray over there. That lets the bolt come all the way out, but it is still a pain and you do have to work with it, so be patient. But on the other side, no battery tray, no wire looms or anything like that. You just bend the sheet metal a little bit and you push it out on the passenger side. All right, so now we're unboxing these Dirt King upper control arms. These guys have crazy good packaging. I've always been super impressed with their packaging and quality control. Those are the new uppers we told you guys about, maintenance-free inner pivots, and a few other upgrades compared to the design that they currently have. These will be dropping soon. These even have the all gold and black emblems on there, as well as the cap here that's got the anodized gold covering as well. So I want to show you guys this. Look how nice this is, wrapped up with saran wrap. Absolutely everything dialed, ready to go. Let's put these in the truck. So I wanted to give you guys a visual. We've got the upper like 50% installed. Again, we have a spacer, a spacer. If you catch a small gap right here in the corner, that's totally normal. As you cinch everything down, it will all suck down together and you won't have any gaps between the bolt and the inner part of the bushing here. Something that we just found out too, we talked to Dirt King. They said that technically, we didn't know this, Toyota actually recommends not pushing the bolt out that way. They recommend cutting it and then pulling all the pieces out and then installing a bolt backwards. I didn't know that was a recommended thing, so you can do that if you don't want to mess with all this sheet metal and all those brackets. Just remember, you can cut the bolt, flip it around, be careful of course, and then install your bolt backwards and you don't have to deal with any of this nonsense over here. So now we've got our coilover. Preload is adjusted, everything is installed, upper control arms in there. At this point, it's super easy. We're just gonna slide this into the bottom shock mount and we're gonna tuck that guy in right there, grab our hardware, 3 new bolts that our provider are gonna go in on the top. We're gonna bolt the upper control arm to the spindle and we're done with this side. All right, it's getting late out here, so kind of fast forward to the time that we've gotten everything bolted back together. If we look up here, you can see 1, 2, and 3 in the back. Those are the main bolts that attach this top hat portion to the top of the coilover tower. Then we connected our ball joint to the spindle with the new castle nut and cotter pin. And then finally down here, we reused the OEM shock bolt and we put that guy back in there. So all we have to do is do a final torque spec and we're all done on this side. We're gonna grease the ball joint here as well, top it off, put the cap back on, and we're all done with this side. All right, so everything is back on. We got the wheel on, lug nuts are torqued. This is the finished front end, and we'll have to check back in with you guys tomorrow or a different day because it's getting a bit dark. We got to knock the other side out. We'll show you guys this stuff a little bit better in the daytime. All right, so it's been about a week since we installed this kit on Kenny's truck. Kenny, tell us a little bit about your first impressions so far.
Yeah, so obviously still need to do an alignment. The steering's a little loose from the install. But really the first thing you notice is Dirt King's progressive valving. It's so much softer on the road versus the previous setup. Really need to take it off on the trail to get a better feeling of it, but so far so good.
All right, that's gonna be it for today's video. The next time you see us, we're gonna compare the 2.0s that we have on Kenny's truck to the 2.5s that are on mine. So we'll see you next time. We're gonna help you how to choose between these two.